Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 124. I'm Saturday morning, day after the last episode. I got up at 4:30 a.m. So I was up, kitchen tidy. I say kitchen, the way my house is laid out, it's like a open plan thing. So when I say kitchen tidy, I mean like kitchen and living room area. All tidy, smelling nice, all fresh. Do you know, I'm in this little habit at the moment. So I'm a big coffee guy. I've got this little habit just now, and I've had it for a month easily, where I've been picking up the Twix hot chocolates from, well, they're not Twix and Aldi, they're Jive. So I get these Twix hot chocolates, put them in my massive mug, and then I put in the Nescafe are doing 2 flavoured coffees just now, just instant stuff. One's vanilla, one's caramel. So then I put some of this caramel coffee in on top of my hot chocolate. And that's what I've been having in the mornings. And it's tremendous. Very unusual. I'm not a big hot chocolate person, but because I'm caffeinating it, I don't know, it's just become my thing. Good morning. Sorry, I'm in a very good mood. Qualifying was excellent. Formula 1 is back. I had to get up at that ridiculous time because it's in Australia for people who are not aware of F1. Tomorrow the race is at 4 a.m, so I'll need to get up even earlier to watch that. But now I'm out with the dogs. The sun is shining. It's -2, but it is beautiful. And we are going to talk about a big, important topic. When I recreated the Monroe Method back in November 24, so if you don't know, I used to have like a 15-day trial process. It was 15 days for £15. That was the big thing. And that's how I brought people into the group for about a year. And it involved going through a 15-day course. Now, over the course of that year, I learned a lot of things. Number one, it was too short a time. It was too easy for people not to really get into it. It was also too short a kind of time constraint. Even though I gave like 18 days for people to complete their 15-day trial, it was too short a period. And then there was also like I was doing a lot of repetitive work. So when I was doing like setting up their nutrition plan, doing their first check-in on day 14, I was repeating so much stuff. And it just, after a year, I'm like, do you know what? Let's fix this. So what I did was I wrote down all the stuff that I was repeating and thought, how can I build this into the course so that I don't have to repeat it without making the course a bigger time commitment. I wanted to still keep it like, 10, 15 minutes a day. So what I did was I extended the course. So we went from a 15-day trial to a 30-day trial, giving people plenty of time to complete it within a longer time frame. First 15 days, daily lessons. The second half of it slows down a bit, just a thing to catch up on every few days. But now, all the stuff that I was repeating, I don't have to repeat anymore because I rearranged the course. I knew what questions which people asked at certain points. And there is a lesson in there about control. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I speak to so many people who think they are out of control. Who is out of control? Let's set that as a benchmark, right? How do you establish if someone is genuinely out of control around food? Well, those people are people with diagnosed eating disorders. The word binge gets thrown around far, far too easily. It's like the word starving or the word exhausted. Like, people don't know what it means to be starving. People don't know what it means to be exhausted. They're just kind of exaggerating their tiredness or exaggerating their hunger. They don't understand the true meaning of the word. And it's the same with binge eating. Binge eating, again, is a characteristic of a diagnosed eating disorder. Binge eating, and it comes back to control, binge eating in the true sense of the word is a characteristic of binge eating disorder, a diagnosed eating disorder. Someone messaged me this week on Instagram, just to add a little thing in here. Somebody messaged me this week or they commented one of my keywords to learn more about the trial, and she asked a question like, before I sign up to this, is this okay for people with eating disorders? And I kind of replied and said, look, eating disorders are not a nutrition issue. Like, you don't have an eating disorder because of your weight. You don't have an eating disorder because of your diet. Eating disorders are mental health conditions. They're not things that a nutritionist will work with you on. These are things that people need to go to therapy for. Quite often people will be referred to CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, as a start point. Sometimes they might be referred on from there. But just before I start talking about eating disorders, please understand, like, eating disorders are not a food problem. They're not a diet problem. They're not a weight problem. They're a mental health issue. And so many people try to diet their eating disorders away. If I could just get my weight under control, maybe I would stop doing this overeating stuff, this binge eating, and it's not the case. So please just make sure that you're getting the right help for the right things. You're not trying to diet your eating disorders away. I had to stop there to speak to a fellow dog walker. So yeah, make sure you're getting the right help for the right things. Anyway, moving on. So, binge eating is a term that gets thrown around far too easily. It is a characteristic of binge eating disorder. A binge in the true sense of the word is described as a complete and total loss of control around food. So while you're listening to me saying this, I want you to think if this sounds like you. So it would feel like you're having an out-of-body experience. You would almost feel as if you were playing a computer game where you're controlling yourself in third person, like looking over your own shoulder. You're a passenger in your own body and you have absolutely no control. You're just watching your hands do something. You're watching your body do something. You're watching someone else frantically open packets and eat biscuit after biscuit and eat crisp after crisp and whatever's going on. And you are completely powerless. You cannot stop yourself. You're just in there watching it happen, waiting for it to stop. Now, if that's not happening to you, then you are not binge eating. You are also not out of control. What you are doing is you are consciously choosing to overeat because you want to overeat. Now, this is a really important thing to understand, because when we keep repeating this idea that we lack control, that we don't have control, that we're losing control, that we're out of control, how disempowering is that? The weather's out of your control. Can't change the weather, but no control over that. That's not disempowering, that's just a fact. But your eating habits, to tell yourself that you don't have any control, that's extremely disempowering. How are you supposed to change something that you've convinced yourself you have no control over? When you do. Why do we do it? Because we don't want to admit it. Nobody wants to admit that they're overeating. Very few people want to say, yeah, I just eat loads of cake because I love it. Sweets, Haribo's, chocolate, give me the lot. Put that in front of me, I will eat every last one and then go looking for more. People don't want to admit that. Because when you admit that, it makes you feel horrible. You don't want to admit that you're doing these things. You don't want it to sound like you even like it. You don't want it to sound like it's you that's doing it. And this is why the whole control thing comes in. And this is why terms like binge eating and being out of control, that's why we talk like that. It helps us to distance ourselves from something we're doing. Oh, that's not me, that's just my binge eating. Oh no, that's just what happens when I'm off track. That's just what happens when I'm out of control. It's easier for you to separate yourself from that. But again, that's massively disempowering, because if you don't think it's you, if you don't want to take ownership of it, and it's not the blame game, don't mistake this for that. It's not pointing fingers. It's none of that nonsense, because that doesn't help anyone. It's taking ownership of things that you are choosing to do. I could say that, oh yeah, no, that's just my procrastination when I open my phone and check Instagram or whatever. But it's me. I'm consciously choosing to do that because it's giving me something. It's breaking up my day. It's giving me a dopamine hit. It's distracting me from a mundane task that I'm performing. And it's the same when it comes to eating. So the more you try to distance yourself from your eating habits, the harder they are to change. Everybody talks about their bad habits. Old habits creeping in. Your old habits aren't creeping in. Like, you've never resolved your old habits. You've just tried to push them to the side. You've tried to distract yourself from them. So one of the reasons that I created this control lesson is because I was getting to day 7, and it's in the first week of the Monroe Method now, because I was getting to day 7. I was getting people's forum through to set up their nutrition plan, and there's a question on there where I want them to tell me in their own words what they think their biggest obstacles are when they lose weight. And there were the things that I was repeating a lot was people would say things like, oh, I just not got a lot of control. I just love food too much. I don't have any willpower. And every time someone says that, and like 1 in 3 people do use at least one of them, if not a combination of all of them, I was having to have like basically this podcast episode of a conversation with them and say, no, look, you are actually in control. No, you don't love food too much. I love food. Everybody loves food. Go ask 10 people in the street right now if they love food. Not one person will say no. Everybody loves food. Your weight is not the result of you loving food more than someone else, because again, if we think about that logically, what's the solution to loving food too much? To learn to love food less? Ridiculous. Why would you want to love food less? That's not how it works. So the whole love food thing is very similar to the control thing. Once you can admit, say it out loud right now, say it in your head, I enjoy overeating. I love eating to excess. I love it. You don't love how it makes you feel. You don't love how full you feel. You don't love how guilty you feel after. You don't love how shit you feel when you wake up on a Monday morning bloated and sluggish and still full from the night before. You don't love that. But what you do love is what eating gives you in that moment. And this is the part that causes the confusion, and this is where the whole control thing comes in. Because our minds do not like to not understand things. Like, our brains need to understand everything. We need to understand everything. And when we cannot come up with a logical answer, because you can't, right? It's like, okay, I am, 15 stone. I don't want to be 15 stone, but here I am on a Saturday night eating a full tube of Pringles and a family sharing size bar of chocolate, and now I've just polished off that tub of salted caramel ice cream. And this is where our brains just implode. Wait a minute, this is the stuff that's making me this weight. I don't want to be this weight, so why am I still doing this? That's the part we can't get. And because we don't want to take ownership of it, like if you think about it, in that situation, I've got a very logical thinking mind. It's what helps me perform well as a nutritionist. It's what helps me help people better. So the way that my mind works, and this is how I became a nutritionist. Because I eventually got to a point at the age of 29 where I stopped and said, look, what the fuck am I doing, right? Why am I following these ridiculous things to lose weight that I'm never going to keep up with? Like, if I keep doing this and then putting weight back on, like the last 5 times, that's what happened. The next 5 times, that's also what's going to happen. There must be a way. Like, there are people who don't gain weight. There are people who are healthy. There are people who live at great weights. Like, why am I not doing that? What are they doing differently to me? And that's where the whole logic came into it, right? Wait a minute. Why do I keep ordering takeaways 4 nights a week? Because that is one of the reasons that I'm in this position. Why do I do that? Because you're tired. Because you're bored at your job. You want something to look forward to, something to be excited about. You want to give your wife a break because you know that she's at home with a young baby and you don't want her having to run around and cook dinner. So you suggest a takeaway thinking you're helping her out as well. Right, what can I do to change that? Well, you can start meal planning. Maybe you could start cooking dinners the night before and then your wife's only got to heat up some spaghetti or something to go with that bolognese that you made. And this is how it all kind of started off for me, where it was like, right, why am I doing these things that I am doing that's taking my weight to where it is. And that was the first step for me, taking ownership of my actions. I am 14.5 stones because I do this, and this. Right, how much of this can I change? Well, number one, you can stop jumping the fence at your work to go to Morrison's every morning to buy rolls and hot sausages. Okay, there's one thing. What can I do instead? Buy a box of cereal. And I did. I started eating bran flakes and banana every morning for my breakfast. It became a ritual. Right, what else can I do? Next thing. And lo and behold, my weight started to come down. So like I said, we're not playing the blame game. We're not playing the shame game. That doesn't work. Do you know, someone inside the group, I was looking at course comments yesterday because people can leave comments on the course lessons. And I'm going to go back to this person on Monday. I've wrote it down because it was horrible. So there's a lesson there called push goals and pull goals, which I've been in. You can search Clancast push goals. You'll find that podcast episode if you want to know what those are. Quickly, push goals are your reasons for getting started. Pull goals are your reasons for wanting, what you want at the finish line. So push goals are, I don't want to feel sluggish anymore. I don't want to feel bloated. I want to climb the stairs without being out of breath. I want to be able to keep up with my kids at soft play and not worry about getting stuck. Those are your push goals, right? The things you want to get away from because they make you feel not good. Pull goals are the things that will pull you to the finish line. What happens at your goal weight? What is going to be so great about you getting to 9 stone, 10 stone that makes you want to get there? Those are your pull goals. And this person had put push goals. I hate the way I look. Pull goals. I want to love the way I look. That's horrendous. If I say this to you, what do you think the answer is? Do you think you can hate yourself happy? Do you think you can hate yourself healthy? Do you think you can hate yourself into a smaller body? Like, what would that process be like? What would that journey be like? That would be awful. So we're going to have a big chat about that on Monday with that person, because they're not going to go the distance. They'll be lucky to get through the first 30 days. Now I've got distracted. So yeah, we're not playing the blame game. We're not playing the shame game. We're not trying to make ourselves feel bad. That doesn't work. That's how people end up with even worse eating habits. That's when people start calling themselves names. Fat, piggy, greedy. You're just a fat fucking greedy pig. People say that. Like I do check it. Well, they used to. Kind of changed that now with the way that the course is kind of laid out in the first week. But that used to come up as well. What are your biggest obstacles to weight? I'm just a greedy pig. People really talking so unkindly about, and this is why people do it. People are horrible to themselves, and they're horrible about food, and they're horrible about their habits, because there's this backwards idea that if you can make something appear to be awful enough, it will somehow make you want to change. Maybe if I call myself enough names, I'll hate myself enough to want to be different. When you hear me say it like that, what does that sound like? You know that's not going to take someone to their goal. Go interview people that have maintained their weight for years. Ask them what they did. None of them are going to say, I just got up and looked in the mirror every day and told myself I was a fat fucker. No. Oh, Beat the Street. I've not told you about this. Every year my kids do a thing called Beat the Street. So you get these little cards that you have to beep. And the school that gets the most points... Can you hear that? That's me scanning the 4 cards. The school that gets the most points gets, so many £100 worth of books for their library. We won it last year. And they're on track to win it this year. My kids have not done it. I do it every morning because I pass 4 of them on the dog walk. Anyway, so it's not the blame game, it's not the shame game. Also, that's the other thing, that's why people talk about food the way they do. It's why they make sugar out to be the devil. It's why they speak so unkindly about junk, crap, rubbish, shite, all that stuff. They're trying to make themselves not want to eat those foods. So yeah, we speak awfully about food because we're trying to put ourselves off it. Like, if I can make sugar sound like the devil, then surely I'm not going to want to eat it. No, You're going to have to eat it at some point, and when you do, how do you think you're going to feel now that you've painted a picture of this thing being absolutely awful? That's what a poor relationship with food is. That's how it develops. You start talking shit about food, you then go and eat that food, and you then feel like shit. And so you go and eat more of it. So, here is the thing that I tell all my clients about control. If you want to take back control of your eating, all you have to do is admit that you are in control of your eating. It's all you have to do, because you're not out of control. It's something you've convinced yourself of to make it easier to understand why you do the things you do with some of the foods that you eat. If you want to take back control, just say, I am in control, and that's it. That is the start point of you changing everything. I'm not out of control. I am overeating because I want to overeat. Awesome. We have a start point. Let's go deeper. Why do you want to overeat? And this is the part that people struggle with, right? But just spend enough time on it and you'll get there. Why? And this will feel fucking horrible. It will feel uncomfortable. People don't like this. Remember, you've spent years glossing over this. You've spent years convincing yourself that it's not you, it's just your habits. Oh, it's not me, it's that lack of control thing. I just go through little periods where I'll eat everything that's in sight. But it doesn't happen all the time. So what I do is I just wake up every day hoping that I'll get back to normal. And every 3 months I usually do. Okay, well, do you like living like that? Or would you like to do things differently? Would you like to not do that anymore? And that comes from this self-exploration, this internal work. It is not pleasant. But the fastest way to grow is to analyze yourself, to make yourself uncomfortable. Took me a long time to realize that. Like I struggled to grow the Monroe method for a long time because it got to a point and I couldn't take it any farther. It's like, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with the process? What's wrong with this? There was nothing. It was me. I'm the Monroe method. I'm the business. So everything kind of hinges on me. If I'm not taking great care of myself, that filters into the way that I show up on social media, the way I show up for clients, the amount of time and effort I put into my work. I was the stopper, so I had to do a lot of internal work. What's holding me back from having a better life? What's holding me back from being happier and having better mental health? And then that's why I started sacking everything off. I gave my Xbox to my son, so I'd stop wasting a couple hours of that on that at night. I stopped drinking alcohol so I could stop wasting however many hours under the influence and after the influence. And I did many other things to improve me. And the thing is, people's eating habits are such a stopper they're such an inhibitor, a blocker, a restriction. How many things does your weight hold you back from? Did it hold you back from going for that promotion at work? Did it hold you back from going for that job interview? How many social occasions have you missed out on? Has it held you back from going on that ride at the theme park because you were worried about not fitting in the seat? Has it held you back from travelling the world because you don't like the idea of not getting a plain seatbelt around you? All this stuff. Does it hold you back from going to events because you're worried that if there are people beside you, your arms are gonna hang over and press into these people? We allow our weight to steal a lot of our lives from us. Oh, I don't want to be in that photo because I don't like how I look, or I like to be in control of the angle, or I'm going to sit. How much of your family life is it stealing? God, the amount of people who delete family photos at the end of a day because they weren't in control of the photo or the angle and they didn't take it high enough, or they've seen themselves from the side or the back or whatever because someone else has taken the photo. How much of your family life are you losing? How many memories are you losing because of your weight? So I know it's not nice. I know it's not pleasant. I know it's horrible. I know it makes you cringe. I know it makes you tingle all over when you even begin to think about it. Because you've spent most of your life yo-yo dieting, right? you've spent, and I've been talking about this a lot in videos like on Instagram and TikTok. It's like you've spent most of your life looking for diets. It's like, I used to think, and my thinking on this has changed now over the years. I used to think, and people do still do this, but I feel like there's a change in the wind now. When it came to dieting, people used to look for the thing that was going to give them the biggest result, the biggest result in the shortest amount of time. I hope you can hear those birds singing. It must be lovely. Maybe not when you hear the traffic. But I love the idea of you being able to hear what a spring morning sounds like when I'm walking through the woods recording these. I hope it picks up all this bird noise. Especially now I'm in the woods, which kind of happens to the second half of these episodes because of the way the route I walk. Anyway, it used to be, how long did, my clients used to get questions all the time, like when they've lost, how long did it take you? That's all they wanted to know. How much have you lost? How long did it take you? And how much was that? They just want to know cost, speed, time. My God, I have had to stop and start this a million times. This is what happens at the weekend when the sun's out. All these people are now coming out at my time of the morning. How dare they? Part-timers. I've been out here at 6 a.m. every day since bloody November last year, meeting like the same two people that come out at that time. Now we've got all these bloody fair weather walkers coming out at my time because the sun's out. How dare they? Oh, there's a beat the street card. Someone's dropped one. That's a shame. Emily. Oh, do you know what, Emily? I am going to beep your card for you. So I now have 5 cards to beep. I will take care of you, Emily. You're now under my supervision. Poor Emily. Where was I? Yeah, so they're looking for plans. It's like people are quite happy to yo-yo diet because it helps take the thinking off of. And here's how that you'll be able to relate to this, right? You think your eating habits are out of control, you're eating too much, you're binge eating too much. Somebody literally said this on a TikTok video the other day, on one of my Slimming World videos. Beat sitting in the house and just putting on, basically meaning, going to Slimming World is better than sitting at home and just gaining weight. So these people know that, like, okay, I've got these things going on that are making me gain weight. I need to start following something that gives me control. And the thing is, it gives them the illusion. This is the reason I talk about control right at the beginning of the Monroe Method now. I explain to people, look, what you're doing is going to make you feel like you're in control. But you've always been in control. That's why I really go into that, because as with most things, everything's all great in the beginning because it's new and it's exciting and it's different and the scales are coming down and it feels motivating. And it's so easy to get carried away and swept up in that and believe that all your problems are solved. Oh, that's me. I'm not binge eating anymore. All my cravings are gone. I'm not hungry anymore. Some of that is from the plan that you're following because it might be a drastic improvement on what you were doing before. Maybe you're eating more protein, more fruits, more vegetables. Your blood sugar's now stabilised. Your cravings have drastically reduced. Your hunger levels have reduced. But are you eating foods that you enjoy? Are you eating in a way that you want to be eating? Are you having to restrict a lot of the things that you want to eat as well? And if so, how long can you keep that up for? So there's this initial period that most people are going to get that positive effect. But then it comes down to this, like how much of that is you changing and how much of it is the plan that you're following. Because once you get through the first month, through the second month, through the third month, if it's not you changing and it's all the plan, that's when things start to unravel. That's when people start giving up. And then they'll go back to normal again. So it's like they get addicted to following plans and programs and looking for new things because they enjoy that brief moment of control that they're getting. That 2 or 3 months of relief from the way that they were eating before. And again, it brings it back. This is why I have that lesson in the first week that talks about control. Because If people think that a plan is giving them control, and if they're not following that plan, they're out of control, that's how they become hooked on plans. That's how people become lifelong Slimming World members. They are terrified to leave. They're terrified to stop going to the group. Their weight loss, they have created a full dependency on going to a group to control their eating habits, to control their weight. And there are people who go, yeah, but what's wrong with that? What's fucking right with it? That woman that I mentioned in the last episode who was like, oh, I've been going to Slimming World for 25 years. I've been a Target member for 25 years. And I took a look at her profile and said, nope. Just going back a few videos, you're doing what everybody does. You go through Christmas, you've put on because you've admitted you overindulged. And now you're getting back on plan to get back to Target. And you also did it in the summer when you were on holiday. And you also did it in Easter. That's the perfect example of the warped Slimming World mind. Like, Slimming World literally convincing people that yo-yo dieting is normal. That's just part of your Target journey. You're supposed to eat to excess on holiday and eat to excess at Christmas and put on a stone and then get back on plan to get it off again. Like, they've created a world where that is what maintenance is meant to be. It's just yo-yo dieting. Anyway, bringing it back to control. So we'll wrap this up. You are always in control. Aside from the situation that I've mentioned, like if you are someone who is struggling with an eating disorder, then you can discount this episode, discount this advice, and go get the right help from the right person for the right thing. And then you can tackle your weight at a future date. You know, like I said, like eating disorders are a mental health condition, so they need to be treated as such, and that will not mean dieting. You're not going to go and get help for an eating disorder and told calories to eat and macros to eat and calorie deficits, and you're not going to get any of that. It's going to be entirely, okay, when you feel like this, why do you want to eat that thing? When you feel yourself spiraling with food, what's the trigger moment? What's the thought process? What happened at work that day? What's the emotion? What's the feeling? That's the route that you go down with that. And you will spend months working on that. And once you get to a place where you're no longer performing those food-related behaviours, you're no longer binging, you're no longer coping with stress by using food, you've got all the tools in place for stress management, for emotional regulation, for managing your mental health, you're no longer abusing alcohol, you're no longer eating to excess, you're not eating takeaways multiple nights a week, and you know, because that's your only source of joy, all of these things that people do. Once your head gets back into a more balanced position, then we can start working on your weight. Because remember, eating disorders are not a weight issue, they're not a diet issue, they're not a nutrition issue. It's a series of connections that you have wired in your brain that leads you to the point where it's right. When I feel like this is how I eat. When I've had a bad day, this is where this is the drive-thru I go to get something to eat, and then I go home and have dinner. All that kind of stuff. So if that is you, get the right help for the right thing. For everyone else who is not out of control around food, I want you to admit to yourself that you are consciously choosing to overeat because you want to overeat. And don't think it's mindless either. Christ, that should be another podcast episode in itself. Mindless snacking. People say to me all the time, it's just mindless snacking. Okay, talk me through this mindless snacking that you think is mindless. And then they'll say, well, what happens is I'll be sat on the TV and I'll be watching something, and then I'll probably get a bit bored. So I'll think, I would really like something to eat. And then I'll go, no, you've just had your dinner, you're not hungry, you better not. But then I go and have a look, and then I check this cupboard, and then I check that cupboard, and then I look in that drawer because that's where I keep that. But I don't fancy any of that. So then I look in the fridge, into the drawer. Oh yeah, and there's where I keep the chocolate. Okay, I fancy chocolate. And then it's like, okay, do you understand what the word mindless means? Because none of that was mindless. That was a carefully thought out series of decisions. A number of value judgments that you made. Like, yes, you could eat something right now, or you could not. Something in your mind said, do you know what, I do want something to eat. So much so that you got up off the couch and walked to your kitchen. And you didn't just grab the first thing because you didn't care, because all you wanted to do was mindlessly eat. You went searching for the actual thing that you fancied the most. You opened that cupboard, that drawer, the fridge. None of that is mindless at all. That is an entirely mindful process. That's a series of conscious decisions from a person who wants to do something and is working through the process of finding the thing they want to do it with. It's the same as the control situation, like calling yourself mindless in that situation is the same thing. It's not mindless. It's a carefully thought out process. It feels like it's a very quick process because it's so ingrained in you and it's a habit and it's a routine, but it's not mindless. Mindless is when you take the family sharing size bar of chocolate back to the couch, open the full thing up, sit with your phone in your left hand, scrolling whatever, looking up at the telly every now and again while your right hand reaches down and keeps taking squares of chocolate until your right hand reaches down and there's no more squares of chocolate to take. That's mindless. That's mindless eating. That's where you disconnect yourself from the act of eating by putting your attention elsewhere. That's why you feel disappointed when all the chocolate's gone, because you barely remember eating the chocolate. You've had a very low quality eating experience, and so you go back looking for something else. The same reason that people eat multiple packets of crisps. They don't sit down with no distractions and eat the crisps one at a time. They hoover them up in an instant and they want more because they weren't, they were driving at the time or they were watching the telly or they were chatting to someone. Anyway, like I said, that's a full-on episode in and of itself. Control. The vast majority of you listening to this are in full control of your eating habits. And you are consciously choosing to overeat. And the start point to changing that is to stop putting it down to a lack of control, stop blaming anything else, stop blaming anything, and just take responsibility for it. Take ownership of it. Yes, I am doing this thing. Yes, I do want to do the thing, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. Now let's understand why. Why do I want to do the thing? What's the purpose of it? What am I getting from it? And one last thing to help you out, right? We do not eat for the sake of eating. Like, we do not just eat things because we just want to eat things. We don't eat things because we want to chew something in our mouth for a few minutes. Every time we eat something, we are trying to get something from it. Like, outside of hunger. Once we're eating outside of hunger, we're now using food. And it's getting to the bottom of, what am I using this food for, right? What lies on the other side of this food choice? So if I go and get this piece of chocolate and I eat it, how's that going to make me feel? Because that's what you're trying to get. You're not hungry. You don't just want to make your mouth move with chocolate in it for a little while. You're using the food to help you achieve a desired outcome. Whether that's a thought, a feeling, a distraction, a little escape, you're using it for something. Yes, chocolate tastes great, but what are you using that taste for? What's it helping you with? What emotion is it distracting you from? What feeling is it helping you not feel? What thought is it helping you not think about? That's where the true shifts happen. That's where the real change happens. Once you can start to understand, right, wait a minute, I'm actually feeling a bit sad, I'm feeling a bit down, I'm feeling a bit anxious, I'm bored, I'm lonely. I was thinking about that thing that happened at work today and it's making me cringe and tingle all over and I just need to do something to not do it. Do you know what I do a lot? I don't know why, and I don't mind sharing this with you. When I am in the shower, I think back to a lot of the stupid shit that I've done under the influence of alcohol. I bomb scared a friend's wedding when I first got with my wife. I was an asshole. Now, I've no excuse for it. Mentally, I was in a terrible place at the time, but I still chose to put myself under the influence of alcohol while I had a terrible time with my mental health. So that is all on me. I was someone who should not have been drinking alcohol back then. But I did. And it did not lead to anything good on that particular occasion. Now, I think about that a lot. Even all those years on, even though I resolved it, they're close friends of ours, I went to the house, the week later, went to the house by myself, sat down in the living room, spoke to the two of them, apologised to the two of them profusely, asked them for their forgiveness. Like, everything's been fine since. It's all resolved. It's not a thing anymore. I mean, they joke about it now. I can't. It still makes me feel awful. But I have this thing where I think about it in the shower sometimes, and it makes me feel this disgusting way all over. And I vocalize it. Like, I literally vocalize it. I go, ah! And I shout like that. That's me, like, that's how I deal with it and handle it, which I know is a very odd thing to do, but it's probably very similar to people going to get something to eat, or scrolling their phone, or gaming, or whatever they do, like, as a distraction. That's my little thing that helps me cope with it. And at least doing that doesn't cost calories, right? It doesn't add weight to your body. It's an unusual thing for your kids to hear when you go, ah, for no reason whatsoever in the shower. But yeah. Anyway, that's enough shit from me. I'm almost home. Until next time.